Hello, beautiful friends, and welcome to another conversation in the Living from the Heart series. And today's guest is Clare Barnes. Welcome, Clare.
Hello.
Oh, I'm really excited to be having this conversation with you today. Clare and I connected via Instagram a couple of years ago. And so I've been aware that this conversation wanted to happen like all that time, or a conversation with you wanted to happen. And the posts you've been putting out recently, I just really resonating with your work, and I was just like, yes, now is the time. So I'd love you to share a little bit about who you are and what you're doing at the moment.
Wow. Okay. Hello everybody. I suppose, I'm a facilitator of transformation for women and men who are ready to step into more of our full human potential. And that, the container that I've created is called Primal Bliss. And it's through my own journey of integrating quite a rapid and quite confusing and intense awakening process with Kundalini and all kinds of weird, bizarre things happening, and really having that trigger my biology, my body, into sort of resistance and fear, and a lot of trying to control these things. And basically through that journey of discovery myself, I stumbled into a way of working with these energies, working with our awakening and our biology in a way that helps reduce the confusion and the fear. Mm-hmm. And it brings us back, I believe, to our fundamental essence, which is beings of play, beings of pleasure, mm-hmm. beings of ease and trust. But that a lot of our conditioning in our biology, it held in our body fascia and belief system, can often be completely contrary to this. So I suppose, what I open for others, and my soul passion and my gift to the world, is to help people integrate their biology and their divinity. Mm-hmm. And we use the wisdom within your body and the wisdom within nature to do that. So they're really our allies and guides.
Yeah, beautiful. I love this. I love the groundedness of this, that we're really talking about, we're finally coming into the body. Like, there's been so much spiritual wanting to ascend and be, that idea, and now we're really coming into the body. So I love your focus at the moment. And yeah, it's interesting. We were talking just before recording, and I was trying to think back at that, like, to the work that you were doing before, when you were working more, when I first connected with you, working more with plants and nature. So you've really dived into the energy of nature itself, and I love that progression, from learning from the wisdom of nature into really, now you're journeying with the body, which is nature, right? Like, this is
I believe it's one and the same. And I suppose even as a child, I kind of sensed, like many of us do who are on these rapid awakening journeys, that the way other humans were doing things didn't feel quite right. Mm-hmm. And I was aware of a lot of really struggling and very serious kind of push to get things done. And really felt like this wasn't the way I wanted to approach my own life and my own journey. And I think I've already had, since I was little, quite a strong connection to nature. It was the way I felt safe. It was the way I felt more of myself and more freedom of self-expression. So a big part of my journey has been working with plant medicines around the world for my own healing. And the plants literally said to me through their consciousness, Claire, go and spread our message, go and let other people know we are here to support humans. We're here to support people in this huge leap that we're taking in our conscious evolution, and that we're not in it alone. Gaia and all of her beautiful moving parts and living beings are here to support this journey fully. So I suppose, yeah, when I was running my previous kind of incarnation business, which was called Artemis Rising, this was very much focused on the plants and shamanic, embodied shamanic healing, which is a tool I still use a lot in my current work. But I feel, yeah, my current offering is much more the fullness of what I'm here to do.
Yeah.
And the plants are a big part of that, definitely.
Yeah. So I'd love to go back to that, what you were touching on earlier about this push, about like where it is that most of humanity, where our drive is coming from, and that are you up for just having a little bit of a dive into that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So yeah, what I've been exploring and learning with other people through different experiences, some shamanic, some very practical workshops on healing, on embodiment work. I've worked a lot on and experimented with various things like tantra and eco shamanic healing, and also just talking to people, like, what is it you're really struggling with, and learning from others. You know, what is it within our humanity, within our physical experience, that seems to get so caught up in pushing and survival. And really this comes down, I believe, to a fundamental disconnection from our essential nature. In that at some point, I think, in our human journey, we were kind of pulled very much into the logic, head-based conditioning of this is how stuff happens. And I think it's part of our learning. It's part of our conscious learning. So I don't see it as bad or good, but I believe we are now at a pivotal shift in the consciousness of humanity, where we are remembering we're far more than just head-based intelligence. And the trouble is, once we come out of our embodied awareness and into much more of a linear head-based, like, logic, this disconnects us with the rest, with how the rest of creation does things. Because the rest of creation, I believe, is, well, number one, it's cyclical, it's not linear. It's operating in multi-dimensional kind of ways, you know, through ecosystems, through the exchange of so much information between organisms all through the planet. And that's even, you know, not considering the other dimensions of energy. So Gaia and Earth, physical life on Earth, is deeply interwoven, connected, conscious experience. And if we just live in our heads, we are like unplugged.
Totally.
We are unplugged from the rest of life. And what I sort of saw, I suppose, through plant journeys, through shamanic journeys, and just through, I suppose, soul knowing, was in the race of humanity to get to the top of the mountain of evolution, as it were, we kind of forgot where we came from. And we kind of like sabotaged ourselves, really, because we lost all that support. It's very lonely at the top of the mountain. And it's very scary. And I think that's what I touch into with the Primal Bliss work is why we can feel so terrified. Because you take any being, any life form, you disconnect them from their foundation, you disconnect them from the rest of life, you put them in neat little boxes and tell them they can only use their heads to work stuff out. The nervous system is immediately going to go into alarm. So I think what a lot of people are doing is they're experiencing the symptoms of a primary disconnect from their foundation, from their roots. And then we struggle with our heads, because this is what we've been taught, to fix this through, I'll go to another workshop and I'll get this childhood thing fixed.
Yeah, because it's fascinating, isn't it? So it's like it's in the spiritual community, you know, it's everywhere. It's a way of doing things, and a lot of people, I feel, there's like this idea, if you're in the spiritual community, you're doing it differently, but actually we're not doing it differently a lot of the time. We're just playing in a different arena, but we're using all the same
Absolutely.
ways to try and deal with our trauma.
And it's what we've been taught. It's not
Absolutely.
that we're failing. It's not that we're broken. I don't believe. I believe we're using a system. We're using a man created, you know, a human created model for trying to find a solution which is actually sitting outside that man created problem or set of rules. So a lot of people, when they're awakening and when they're undergoing these big conscious openings, are still trying to navigate that and understand it and walk that path using three-dimensional man-made set of rules, and wondering why they feel really confused and scared and more lost. You know, a lot of people I work with say, well, I feel more lost since my awakening and more confused and more isolated. And I believe this is the gateway in. We can work with these feelings of being different or cut off or separate, and allow the body to remember the biology of us, to remember it's safe and home. And this comes through our physicality, not through our mental processes.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah, I just love this reframe. It's just so time for it. Oh yeah. So then how do we do that? How do we go from, I mean, it's going to be an individual journey for everybody, but I'm imagining there are themes that you're that you're coming across that work for people.
Yeah. So I see it as like the foundation of primal bliss and the reconnection to our fundamental nature. The foundation is getting to know your animal body, getting to know your primal responses. And so many of us have been conditioned, kind of like I say, out of the body, that actually we've got this kind of, inverted commas, advanced brain, like getting all of these concepts of I'm oneness, I'm love, I belong, but the biology below the neck is still living in primal survival. So there are really simple, what I call kind of biohacks, but very loving biohacks, where we basically just work with how your physiology, kind of like a reset button for your physiology. So for example, some of you may have come across a theory called Polyvagal Theory. I don't know if you've come across Polyvagal, but it's basically looking at how we're wired, like the nuts and bolts of our nervous system response. And we've got three main responses. We've got parasympathetic, which is your sociable, I feel relaxed, I want to play, I want to interact, I feel connected and open and loving. And then we've got sympathetic, which is fight or flight, which is like the mammalian alarm system. And then the third and final one, which is at play, is our dorsal reptilian response. And this is when things get so much that we just shut down.
Yeah.
And at any one point, those three systems are working together. So it's very, very unusual to get complete shutdown or complete parasympathetic. You know, we're usually on a continuum between those. But what a lot of people are stuck in, they're stuck in a semi kind of shutdown state, where the alarm chemicals in their nervous system are actually not getting reset. And then, so the symptoms and the signs of this can be really simple things, like just the kind of feeling very heavy and tired a lot of self-sabotage, which we think is a mental problem, but it's not. A self-sabotage is where your reptilian biology, your survival biology, is literally trying to dig its claws in to say, I can't move forward, I'm scared. So when you understand that your body and your physiology is trying to only desperately protect you,
yes,
and what it's dealing with is more than it can cope with, because you've probably never been taught to turn these things off, and come back to your parasympathetic response. So when we're feeling shut down, when we're feeling isolated, when we don't want to connect, this isn't that we're being unspiritual. This is that our biology is blocking us. So yeah, the foundation of it all is I teach people how to understand and have deep compassion and tools so that their biology starts to wake up and play, and feel safe to play. That's the foundation. You know, we can't create on the level what our souls want to create on if our basic vessel, if our physiological vessel is still in like reptilian, kind of laying on its back, you know. Like, keep it away from me, it's terrifying. And the more we plow mental energy and I must fix myself and self-criticism and judgments onto this, it's the analogy I use, it's a bit like, you know, shouting at a scared puppy. In that the biology of you doesn't operate at the cognitive level. It's subconscious, it's below that awareness. So it's amazingly powerful and brilliant, but it goes wrong. and people I've worked with, including, you know, the journey I've been on, is like, we were never taught this. We were never taught how to be human fully. What that means, you know. Absolutely. That we have got all these animal parts of us that have come through our evolution, that are still hardwired to protect and resist any change. So it's how to befriend and bring these on side, rather than coming into this, what I see as a pull in a lot of people, where they've got these amazing insights and their upper chakras and energy systems open to the cosmos, but their animal physiology is like, I don't trust this, I don't feel safe. So yeah, I don't know if I answered the question.
I can't remember what the question was now. No, it's perfect.
Yeah,
I think
so that's the foundation. Getting safe and befriending your animal biology, and that's really easy, because it doesn't.
That sounds good.
It is. That's the beauty of it. That's another part of the, what I call like the broken conditioning.
But
everything has to be hard. Everything has to be effort and hard and push. And that's what's keeping us stuck. What's keeping us stuck is that we're fighting against the rest of creation by doing that. And our biology naturally resets to safe and naturally wants to play and connect and open if we give it the right stimulus, which comes from ease, play, and doing the things we've been taught are kind of not necessary.
So we really have to be taught at this point, right? Because to know that you're allowed, that there's time to play, and actually that it's constructive to play or to rest or to soften, or, you know, all of those qualities that you're talking about. Like, I feel like I'm in this journey myself at the moment. There are different aspects of me coming up, and it is that reptilian energy in me that's like, come on, you need to get on with this. And I've got this other part of me that just knows the truth of what you're saying right now. And like, when that part of me, when she's in, like, I was going to say in control, but when, you know, when she's the one that's leading the show and playing, my life is such a different experience. Like, things just show up, like, the magnetism or the flow and the ease and the grace is just present.
There's a softness about the approach which goes against so much of our conditioning. I think we're programmed to think big changes, big success, big shifts need to have come from quite a hard graft, or quite a kind of tenacious, pushy approach. And all this is doing is further triggering the nervous system to think you're still in a war zone, which isn't helpful. So what I recognize in myself and others is that we kind of find something we feel a bit stuck in, or, you know, a little kind of knot in the way we're approaching life, or a block or a fear. And what is actually most powerful is to soften into that and play with it. You know, and it can be quite big stuff. And when I say play, I don't mean we have to create, like, I don't know, a frisbee game or something. The play, I think, is a state of mind. It's a state of being, which I believe comes from our essential nature, which is one of curiosity and innocence.
So
and when we open this gateway to innocent curiosity about whatever's feels like tangled, tangled or fearful, we soften to it, and we allow the energy within that, because it's only just consciousness that's got a little bit bound up, and it's life force. It's not bad. It's not these blocks. It's literally where a bit of your experience has become a little bit log jammed in your body, in your awareness, because at one point in time you didn't have the tools or the safety to process it or to integrate it. So it's just kind of like a holding pattern of these things that are more of you. They're more of your wholeness, and they're just wanting to come home. And if you think of it, like I always think of the analogy, like children, being invited to, say, a big disco, like there's a party going on, it's the best party in the universe, everyone's invited, but the bits of you're in still battle with or rejecting because you're trying to fix them really. These are like poor little children that are sat outside the disco and they're not allowed in. And can you imagine how miserable that makes them feel, and how rejected, and how they're going to just basically misbehave? So this is what I think we experience when we have these parts of self through our journeys that we're trying to desperately fix and make better. And we do this in a serious kind of, I need to deal with this. A better reframe and a better, I believe a better approach is to treat them like children coming to the party. Like, what is your message? I want to learn from you. I want to get to understand you and bring you home. And this doesn't happen when we're still locked in the kind of logic push thinking. And all we're doing is we're just kind of polarizing parts of ourselves, which is painful. And I believe that's what the inner pain is. It's like we're pushing bits of ourselves away from us more by trying to fix them and trying to like make them holy enough to come back to the temple. And they're just like, I just want to get in.
And because there's no judgment on them. Like when you come into nature, or like when I say nature, I just mean the natural laws of life, really. That all is included, everything is included. That's what unity is, isn't it? And it's like, if you look at nature, like I was looking at the brambles like going over the hedges the other day, and there's no conflict there. And even when I see ivy wrapped around trees and stuff, there isn't conflict. We might think there is. We might think it's being strangled, or like there's things happening, and it's like, no. Like when I tune in, like the oak tree is just allowing of like everything that's happening, and there's just such an allowance of all aspects. That was really coming through to me over the last few days, like just how everything in creation is accepted in the same way, like whether it's something that's rotting or something that's blooming, it has its place and it has its intelligence, and it's needed for the next cycle. So I really feeling what you're saying, like I just this is just the way forward right now, isn't it? To allow all of it. And
it is, I believe, what the ultimate learning is that we didn't come here to be more light. We came here, we are light, we are divinity, having a human experience and learning, like, how do I move this earth ship? It's really weird. Like, how do I get it to do what I need to do? And seeing the potential in that, this is the I suppose the edge of consciousness that I love to play in, is what is truly possible in this vessel, when we start releasing those conditions and releasing what we've been taught is possible for the human experience. And I believe, there's infinite potential there for huge amounts of vitality. Because if you think about it, the amount of life force it uses to hold bits of us separate, or bits of us, to plow that energy into constantly pushing and fixing, is exhausting. I think that's why most people are really tired. And what they're experiencing is the symptoms, like I say, of being disconnected from their essence, which they then go on and try and fix again and again.
Yeah.
And you can skip to the end. You can skip to the end. You don't need to spend decades analyzing, because you're an infinite being. You're always going to find more to fix. I hate to tell you, but it's just the way we are. There's nothing to fix. And that might sound like a big leap of faith, or a big way, you know, a big gap from where you are, but I'm a big believer in the kind of, you know, the philosophy sort of fake it till you make it kind of. We get to play this role of being the whole person, you know, that doesn't need fixing. And it may feel a bit weird to start with, and we may have parts of self that are so used to fixing things that they're like, well, what do I do now?
Yeah.
You know, I've got nothing to do.
And you can
so
give them another job.
Yeah. We create other games for them to play.
Yeah.
And other roles.
Yeah.
And this is part of reclaiming our wholeness, I believe, and realizing some of the things we think are most wrong or damaged or whatever are actually our greatest power lies in those places.
Yeah, they've just had the wrong role to play. Like, well, not the wrong role. They were playing the right role up until the moment when it's time for them to do something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's such cool work. It's just, yeah, I'm just enjoying all of your reframes, you know, and yeah.
It's sort of, I've always been a high achiever and really driven, really academic, really, like, I got through most of my life up until about 7 years ago on sheer warrior spirited grit. And people would like jump out of the way of the pavement, you know, when I was walking along. I was so in, well, I thought I was so in my power. I wasn't. I was like fragile as whatever, but I was coming from pure warrior drive. So I get this is often how we've been trained, particularly as women, you know, that we need to somehow be bigger and stronger and faster and better in order to have the same influence or power in the world. But our gift is that we find our strength, well, everyone does, but particularly women, our strength is in the allowing, our strength is in the surrender to life. And what comes through then is, like, you know, the analogy of the oak tree or anything in nature, it just is, and therefore it is abundant, therefore it receives, and creates and expands and flourishes. And actually by pushing, we deny ourselves these things. And our biology is kind of like, if you imagine we're like basically just, I suppose, yeah, like tubes for life force. I mean, lovely tubes.
Yeah.
But when we're trying so hard, it's literally like we're rigid, and the life force can't move through us. It's like all kind of stuck, and it feels like strength because you may feel like armored and resilient, but actually underneath the surface there's a lot of fear patterns held in the body, isn't there? And we're denying ourselves, like that's the heartbreaking thing. We deny ourselves the true nourishment and the true bliss and beauty that is ourself. And that's what I really want everyone to be able to experience, is to come home to that.
Beautiful. So what kind of differences have you seen in your own life as a result of this shift?
It's very interesting. It's very, very interesting. You know, I think all of us have or many of us anyway, we have an understanding that when I shift my inner world, my outer world shifts. And I kind of played with it, you know, a little bit, and seen like my relationships, my family change and things like that. But when I started really softening and not fighting life so hard and actually dropping into my primary focus of every day is, how can I play today? How can I find pleasure? And that is my navigation system now. And it's not to say I just lie like the Queen of Sheba, well, some days. But, you know, and this again is it's like, are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to like just honor our pleasure just for the sake of, you know, because we want to? And yes, you are. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
And when I came back more into my body, it was like the things I perceived as stuck, or the ways I was in conflict, just kind of ceased to be. And it was almost like I couldn't remember why I was struggling. Do you ever get that, where something so fundamentally shifted on its axis, you can't actually remember why it was a problem?
Yeah.
I love those kind of shifts.
Me too. And then when I'm there, I think I'm never going back again. I'll never experience another part of me that's like, but yes, yes.
So yeah, I mean, practically, it's little things I've noticed. I automatically receive a lot more support because I'm not pushing it away. I'm not so armored. So it comes to me, and it wants to come to me.
Yes.
So,
And that's a really important part, isn't it? I think, like, I could feel this energy coming through as you were talking. I was like, oh, there's a certain like frequency, or there's an energy or something that wants to come in here. And like this thing around, like, all of life wants to support us, right? Like life wants you. I think you had this written on your website as well, and I love this. Like life wants you to thrive, because when you're thriving, then you support the rest of life to thrive as well. I can't remember how you'd worded it, but that kind of
excuse me, I've got a tickle. I might need to go and just get a bit of water, sorry.
Okay.
1 second.
Okay, so where were we? Oh, I think I was saying about life wanting to support,
wanting you to thrive,
you to thrive. Like that's the shift as well, right? That like it's the natural way is that way, that we don't have to make it happen. So now I can't remember what you were saying before it that made me.
So yeah, about
what your life and
what I'd noticed had shifted was that support can reach me.
Yeah.
As if you imagine, everything that enters your physical reality has to go through the conduit of your vessel. It has to come through. So we've got all this amazing quantum universal energy bouncing around everything. But if it can't come into your physical vessel, because you're literally, no, I'm fine, I can do it myself, and you're like literally fighting it away. And often we don't realize that the trying is actually like this massive brick wall between us and the rest of life. And it can't reach us. It's almost like we're running so fast, the rest of creation can't keep up. And it's like, hang on, I'm trying to help you here. And you're like, I'm fine, I've got it. I've figured it out. And we don't realize we're doing it because we've been so programmed that is the way to be successful, that is the way to be abundant. And it's a reshifting in the mind and in the body, that is like a reset to actually the less, and this goes against so much of our conditioning, that the less we try, the more we receive.
I definitely,
and a lot of people, that's like, what, that's just
yeah,
and it can bring up a lot of stuff.
And there is a need within that to be in a surrendered place of trust as well, right? So it's like, I think I've tried doing that at times, but I'm not actually doing it. I'm like, right, just don't do anything, but actually I'm in a panicked state. Like those parts of me are still switched on. So this ability to really drop into a different state within the body, to actually experience relaxation in the body and feel in the body. It's like, it's all happening in our bodies, right? Like, this thing of like the world and life being a reflection of what's happening within us. And we think within us is within our bodies, like we're in the physical realm here. And most of us, especially, I think so many people, even on like the spiritual path, and like we're not, when we say like inside of ourselves, we're maybe not thinking inside of our physical bodies. We're thinking like we're still separating out the spiritual and the physical. and actually it's just one and the same, and we've got to get like, yeah, feel it in the body.
Yeah, absolutely. And the mind generally is responding to cues in the body. And this is what we get back to front. So we think, well, if I think my way to being more trusting, if I think my way to being more surrendered, and it doesn't work like that. The brain is only creating its kind of inner dialogue really from embodied cues, from the physiology, which is all this cocktail of nervous stimulus, messages, and 90% of these are below your radar. They're like all happening in your biology. So it could be certain kind of neurological cues from your outer environment that are saying I'm safe right now, or I'm unsafe. And especially in current times, you know, the animal part of our physiology is going to feel really kind of unsettled by people wearing masks and things, because it's like, if you think about it, the animal in us needs to see recognition in the face. So it's not about getting alarmed at these things, but it's about realizing that we need to kind of have tools to keep our physiology happy and feeling safe. And then a natural byproduct of that will be your mental chatter will calm, your consciousness can open because you won't be so protected. Your heart can open and trust more. So I believe trust is an embodied experience.
Me too. Yeah.
You can't really think, you can't think your way to it.
Yeah.
And it comes from cultivating it, almost like a muscle, cultivating it through trusting ourselves predominantly, because we are the focal point, the creator within our reality. So if we're trusting ourselves, and we can do that through little, aligned actions each day, and building that up. So it could be something like, each day I'm going to have like an hour in nature, or each day I'm going to spend 20 minutes on self-pleasure and stroking myself with feathers, or whatever feels good for you, and cultivating that trust and showing up for yourself.
I think that's so big.
Really, that's what we're seeking. Because we often get, especially in spiritual communities, we can get like, oh, I need to trust this bigger power, or I need to surrender to God. And we are that. And the way isn't to jump out and try and find that above us or around us. It's inherent in the body. And that's why it can feel such a struggle, because we're missing like the core of where it's coming from. Sort of thing. So like little practices that you can use to cultivate trust in yourself and come back to your body feeling safe and nourished. That I believe is a really quick way for your brain to start trusting as well.
I love that. Because I definitely, for me in my journey, I've definitely had a thing of not trusting myself. And I've got really clear on, like, I do my morning practice now, like, and I know that I show up for that. And I think that's shifted so much. And like, just as you're talking, I'm like, so it's not, yes, the things I'm doing really do support me, but actually it is that, like, I know I show up for it. And then if I go through a phase where I don't show up for it, something does happen within my being, and I drop out of that game. So I think that's a really
very true.
It's a really powerful tool.
And it's a dance as well. It's a dance between, I think there's often in our upbringing or our conditioning, it's like discipline can be seen as quite a harsh thing. And for years I really fought against that. I grew up in a very kind of disciplined, controlled house. So I went the other way. I became so free and floaty and cosmic that I didn't actually, my actual human physical life was a bit turned to a bit of disaster. And I had to learn my way how to have healthy soul and heart-centered discipline, which comes from a deep self-love and nurture, rather than I've got to do this practice because I'll be bad or not spiritual if I don't do it. And I always think, what opens the gateway to really feeling this deep sort of sense of trust and love in ourselves and the world is that heart-centered discipline. And being loving with ourselves when we don't always do the right thing, or say the right thing when we don't always show up for ourselves. But yeah, bringing ourselves back like we would a child, or like we would, you know, a part of us that is maybe a little bit scared or a little bit vulnerable. We're just like, okay, we're going to just sit down and do this now. And yeah, I don't really align to any kind of practices that feel forced or rigid, because I think that in itself again separates us from our central nature.
Yeah,
I believe creation wants us to play with this energy and experience as bliss and fun, and that opens up your body. You know, if you're on your yoga mat or whatever, like, I must do this, like, rigid, it's not. Yeah, you're kind of almost exacerbating the you know, the hardness, aren't you, in the body?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm doing this because it's pleasurable, because I enjoy it. Like, you've got to find what you enjoy and what you love doing.
Absolutely.
And that is so unique and different to each of us, isn't it?
Yeah, learning what your nervous system finds nourishing is like a gateway in. And each of us are wired slightly differently, and each of us will have certain things that others may think, wow, that's amazing, blissful, and others are like, oh no, that doesn't do it for me at all.
Totally.
So for example, it could be, you know, whether it's self-touch or whether it's with a partner or you know, someone you trust. It's like, yeah, you know, for some people very delicate is amazing. Very delicate, soothing. For others, that's irritating. Like, oh, get off me. And for others, they need that firmness. They need like that anchoring, and like, yeah, maybe they felt too big and too floaty and they want to just be held really securely. And for someone else, that might be deeply triggering and feel like sort of smothering. So it's about learning what you need to feel nourished and pleasure, rather than thinking that has to be a formula, you know, or a right way. One of my highest pleasures is just dancing like a maniac, you know, to old school rave, and that is like one of my best spiritual practices, because like frees me up, you know. I feel so free and so embodied, but also so vast and cosmic and also human and sweaty and and it's just, yeah, you know, it's not maybe a recognized spiritual practice, but I think again, this is where the play comes in. We get to go towards whatever helps our energy feel like it's moving, and if it's not working for you, step away, you know.
Definitely. Yeah. Okay, so there was another piece that I just wanted to touch on with you as well, and that was around because I got really interested recently in like doing business differently, and I think that was that the post that there was a post you did about from the tour or something.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I can't even remember, like, I know we touched on it earlier, I don't remember the like proper ins and outs of it, but yeah, I'm really interested in this idea of doing business differently, you know, and coming from this more pleasurable, ease-filled, gentler way that isn't pushing. So yeah, I just wondered if you'd be up for sharing just like a few, just anything that comes to mind around your experiences that you've had.
So yeah, I think for a long time, like we touched on earlier, I was approaching my soul work with the same belief systems and approach as I was my kind of previous corporate stuff. So yeah, I've been on a big journey kind of learning how to use some of the skills I developed running teams in offices and call centers, and you know, quite heady corporate-y world, but actually, yeah, how to use some of those skills into my soul work, but also not bring with it the layers of like productivity driven creation. Now often there can be certain embodied kind of conditions and experiences we've been taught growing up, from schooling, from careers, is that we need to do something to win security or to win approval. Trouble is, this is like the antithesis of what soul work's about. And the soul work is like dropping into that we are already secure, we are already love, and we create from a very kind of free platform of like, what does source, what does spirit want to birth through me today? And it may be just something that you don't even expect. It could be quite random. And what I found is some of your most sort of your biggest wins, as it were, in business, or your biggest like monthly incomes come from things you just created in 10 minutes, like after, I don't know, maybe you've got in from a walk in the woodlands and you just suddenly get one of those moments in the flow where you think, oh, this feels silly, but I'm just going to create this, or put out a little post or put out a little message. But because it's coming from such an innocent kind of not trying, that's when it has an impact, because we're dropping into the layer of creativity, which is beyond trying to get an outcome. And what is the biggest kind of stranglehold on success and abundance and just generally making quantum leaps in our purpose work, in our presence in the world, in the impact our work can have? One of the biggest strangleholds is that we try and pin an outcome on it. And this is like, it's like noosing creation, like, and tethering it down, because the energy can't flow if we've made it conditional. If we said, well, I'll only create this if I get $5,000 from it, or if I get another 10,000 Instagram followers, or whatever 3D moving parts we want. And I'm not to say those things are bad, or I'm not judging those things, but we can't do our soul work from needing that, because that already is buying into a lower vibration that we aren't those things already. So we are already infinite, we are already secure, we are already abundant, even if it's not literally shown up in your bank yet. That's one of the dances. It's like, can I trust and have faith that when I just show up for my message, for my soul message, whatever that may be, whether you're an artist, a performer, a writer, creating course content, creating workshops, whatever your container or your platform is kind of part of how your soul gets out there. But more importantly, is that creation coming from you moving out the way? Or are you sat there writing the message, which we all do, going, oh, I hope people like this. Oh, I hope this doesn't sound weird. And some of the things soul wants us to say, oh my goodness, it's like, really? You want me to say that? Because it's raw sometimes, and it's real. And it may be flying in the face of a current normal perceived paradigm. And it's not to say we need to be like aggressively controversial to get our message out, but sometimes it's like that heart-centered courage of like, yeah, there are parts of me that think I shouldn't do this, but actually soul wants me to do this.
Being so authentic in the moment, to each moment. Gosh, it's such a big shift, isn't it? I've learned, I just finished the first online course that I put out, and it was like working with the elementals, and like I've really learned working with that energy, like expect the unexpected. And like so much of what you just said I had to really learn in that journey of like, even like once I'd created it, I had to kind of let go. It was like spirit wanted to move through the whole group in a different way. I mean, it was fascinating to watch the whole thing, and like the title got lived out totally, but not quite in the way that I had advertised it or said it was going to be this thing. And every time I listened, I just had to listen and share and be responding to the people in the group as well. And I was just like, it just felt like such a different way of working, rather than having right, this is what we're doing every day or every week, it's like it's just fascinating. It
is a real trust, again, letting go of what we think we need to create to be successful or be heard or be effective,
right. And it's a whole reframe of what success is, isn't it? It's like, like you're saying, it's not about like having those numbers, or it's like, you know, success these days, it's like, am I happy doing what I'm doing as well? There's been so much emphasis on expansion for business, like just like keep expanding, you know, and creating, just, I don't know, from like just a sort of senseless place. And yeah, there's just when we drop into our biology, I love that, like there's so much more information available, right? There's like, and it's different, it's going to be different information coming through now. We're going to be creating completely different structures. I was really getting this recently around like the new earth energy. It's like, oh, I think I thought we were going to create new structures that look like the old structures in a way, but just were different. I don't know if that makes sense. And it's just like, oh, like the way that we're going to be working and the way that we live our day to everything is going to be, it's going to be a different experience. It's a different experience. And you know, and it just makes you think, like, I think so many people feel like they need challenges, that that's the way you expand, is through difficult times and through hardness, and that has been our old paradigm. And I just feel like this new paradigm is what you've been expressing around going into bliss, and how to expand through these different, more joyful avenues. And yeah,
I think we need sometimes in our soul expansion, we do need a bit of like an alchemy. We need something sometimes to sort of some kind of challenge on a healthy level. But it's knowing, it's always that dance. It's like, am I going into a push kind of challenge, like head down, you know, beefed up, teeth gritted, in which case you're not actually flowing with that challenge. You're more approaching it from fear paradigm. And some of our biggest learning can come through periods where we feel utterly lost and confused and don't know what's going on.
This is true.
And being okay with that as well, that we can.
Well, that's it, isn't it? That's the reframe of like these experiences are still going to happen because we are human and we're living in a crazy world right now. But yeah, how we relate to it is where the change is, isn't
That's it. And building the embodied resilience, because I think we're always going to get things that you know are going to shift us in and out of different nervous responses. That's how we're wired. It's part of the journey of being human. But it's building the resilience, like the wild resilience that you see in nature, where things can unravel for a bit and degrade, and then they come back up again, you know, and there's a cycle and there's a shift in and out, rather than what we often do in the linear thinking is very black and white. Like, I'm either thriving completely or I'm a mess. And actually we're always dancing between them. And when we don't try and polarize ourselves or define it, then we actually are able to move that energy much more freely. What keeps us, I believe, stuck in old limiting patterns and old sabotage patterns is the fact that we start identifying with them as self, which they're not. They're just learning simulations, really. And we start contracting around the energy because we view it as, I've got to fix this until I'm, you know, before I'm safe. What if it was okay to just not know what's going on? And just allow your body wisdom and seeking what is blissful in each moment as the gateway home, as the gateway to live your life.
And sometimes it's totally blissful to go into the tears, to go into the grief, you know, and to go into the pain. Like, actually that can be blissful.
Absolutely.
Like, again, it's just that keep reframing it and opening out what the body can experience is incredible.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. Bliss to me isn't, it doesn't mean you need to necessarily live in a constant state of orgasmic rapture. Some days you might, but for me, bliss is the deep acceptance of what's happening in the now, in your physical experience. And that can be grief, that can be fiery rage, that can be frustration, but can you be so at peace with that and allow it to move through you like a ripple through, you know, a body of water, or like the wind in the leaves, and it's just literally felt and it's moved. And the less we kind of try and create a big story and a big drama around it, the more this life force can just come through. And that to me is bliss. It's a deep state of surrendered acceptance of the moment, which we get to have. And it's not this big leap. You know, I don't believe we have to spend years up a mountain meditating to get these things. We just practice, like by each moment that we are aware of it, thinking, how can I call in more pleasure this moment? How can I slow down what I'm doing and just come back now into what's my body feeling like? You know, and noticing those tensions and breathing into them, and loving them dearly as gateways to more life force, you know, rather than things that are wrong.
Yeah, I love that. I'm so pleased you put those words to what bliss means for you. That's so important, isn't it? Because there is a misunderstanding when people say follow your bliss. Like, I think there's quite a big misunderstanding of what bliss really what can feel like. Beautiful. Thank you for doing that. Oh, thank you. I really, it's such a juicy topic and conversation to have with you. Is there anything else that you feel like you wanted to share or feels alive in this moment to bring through before we finish?
I'm just coming back to, giving yourself full permission that this gets to be fun and easy, that it is okay to, gravitate towards pleasure and towards what nourishes you. That, if you're sensing the old ways of doing things, just you're really over and you don't need that anymore. That is your soul, that is your deep essence saying you can move forward from that, and everything in creation is here to help you do that. So you're not on your own. I know these are quite chaotic, scary times for many of us, but we're not on our own in this. All of creation is working for us. And that would be my message.
Such an important message, and I feel it so strongly right now, actually. Like I feel like that, you know, it's when you get the polar opposites, and it's like that's getting louder. It's like as the chaos out there is getting louder, I've heard a lot of people saying, oh, my inner light, it's kind of like that sense of everything looking after you is getting stronger as well. So it's a choice which way we go. What are you offering right now? What have you got that you're offering people?
I'm obviously, with current kind of guidelines and stuff, I haven't been doing group work for a little while. Plus I've recently moved to Devon, so I'm sort of establishing my base a little bit. But what I am offering is one-to-one support. So for people who are at that kind of junction where, you know, you've had the awakening and you know there's far more available, but you feel like you're kind of stuck in old stories and old paradigms and that just aren't serving you anymore. And it's just the confidence, because I think often when we're on these journeys, it can feel like we're kind of on our own. And that in itself can feel frightening. And we don't maybe have people that we can tell this stuff to, like my body just shook for an hour this morning or something, you know. And sometimes because particularly in the, you know, in this embodied ascension journey, a lot of it isn't documented or spoken about widely. So I provide like a really safe container of understanding, because I've lived it, and I'm living it. Obviously I'm not stopped. I'm living it, and work with those who've maybe had experiences which have left them a bit shaken at the core, or left them uncertain of how to bring their divinity and their humanness together. And you maybe feel quite fractured or uncertain of what this means for you. So if any of that is kind of moving through, and you want to approach things in a much gentler, body-centered, grounded way, plugging into the rest of life rather than floating off, then yeah, that's my offering. Is I do one-to-one, either online, I do sort of Zoom sessions, or we can, if you're wanting to travel, I'm in the southwest and I will travel to you, you know, within reason. It's not Scotland or something. Unless you want to pay, you know, for my fuel, then I might have a trip. But yeah, so it's mainly one-to-one around Dartmoor. I'm doing a lot at the moment. Plenty of space, plenty of wild energy to play with. And it's really, yeah, it's a creator. I create the Primal Bliss container and help you move your body energies and allow them to feel safe and heard and felt in a new way. And then what bursts from that, I don't know. It's very organic. It is working with primal intelligence and life. So there isn't like a set like, oh, it's got to do this. So yeah, what can come through is unique for you. So yeah, and I am looking at setting up some online courses, which will be really fun and easy to follow. And then there'll be like a group, like a community that we can share our learnings. And this will be teaching, first of all, the foundation of Primal Bliss. So how to get your animal body working with you, and how to get your nervous system kind of out of, you know, scared reptile and much more into trusting your embodied ascension. So I will be posting that soon, and I'll send you the links and stuff.
Yeah.
Play.
Excellent. And so where can people find you right now? What platforms are you on?
So yeah, the website is, I'm just tweaking a few bits at the moment, putting some new video content and things on, but that will be up and running in the next few days, and that is primalbliss.co.uk. So that's the main website. And then you can find my Facebook page, Primal Bliss. I think, yeah, if you just type in Primal Bliss, it will come up. I'm also on Instagram as the tag Primal Bliss Queen. So any of those, yeah, you can come and check me out and come and share what's moving for you, and love to connect.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you, Claire, for this today. I so appreciate you coming and sharing your wisdom and your experiences.
Brilliant. No, I've loved it. It's been lovely chatting with you.
Yeah, really great. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who has watched. And if you've enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe, and please go and check Claire out, and we will see you again soon. So much love to you all. Bye.
Bye.